Right, for our interview for this latest West Harlem Way podcast, we've got Caroline Gibson. And Caroline, I followed you in 2012 for your West Harlem Way race, and we followed your journey and your race itself, and so that was really good. So thanks for coming back. Now, things have changed a lot for you in the last 5 years, which we'll find out a little more about. But just to start with, maybe you could just introduce yourself for those who don't know you.
Okay, my name is Caroline. I used to live very close to John, which is really one of the reasons why I was the first year John decided to follow people in the race. It was nice and easy for us to do. A deputy head teacher at a school in Western Bartonshire. I now have a son, Harrison, who is 1.5. Obviously, that's one of the big changes.
Yeah. And you've also moved house, haven't you, in the last few years?
Yes, I moved house just before Harrison was born, so up to Clarkston on the south side of Glasgow. Yeah.
And you're still teaching in the same school you were at?
Yes, still teaching in that same school that I was at when I did the West Harlem Way race. So a bit more of a commute now, which is one of the reasons for not so much running just now. Yeah.
And if you hear any background noise, we've got Micah, our grandson, here as well, so you might get a little bit of a noise in the background, which is fine. To start with then, Caroline, I thought it'd be just fun to just think back on that 2012 race, because that was the reason we sort of did the podcast then. And just what are your memories? What are the things when you look back on that race 5 years ago? What stands out?
How wet it was. That was the same as Colin, the same year, so really wet year, so I remember being pretty miserable for quite a lot of it, and complete changes of clothes several times, so definitely you can never have too many clothes with you, and your support crew not having enough, or can't have too many either. Being absolutely terrified before the start, even though I had actually started the year before as well, but excited as well, but and that atmosphere in Mulgai is very special, but definitely remember being totally terrified. And then I think the abiding memory for me and for anyone else involved or who was there would be Kinloch leaving.
Well, I was going to say that, yeah.
And coming into there not really able to even stand myself up, and having to wait there for quite a while the Dr. Ellis looked me over and things and made sure I was all right to carry on, which I don't think he actually really did think I was. But
Well, I remember that really clearly, Caroline, because we were there with Katrina. We were sort of doing the timing and stuff that year, and I distinctly remember you coming in with Neil and Chris, I think, wasn't it? Yeah. And Dr. Chris Ellis took one look at you, and he just basically scooped you up in his arms. He took you over to the big hall where there was mattresses laid out, put you down, and said, "Right, she's not moving for 20 minutes or so." And just and at that point, I wondered whether you'd actually make it. I don't know whether your parents have you this, but I remember talking to Chris, and he said, I've got to get our parents out of there, because they're obviously they're saying they love you and you don't need to do this, and Chris just felt it was taking your resolve away. But
I'd probably just look at no point in that, although I was thinking I wasn't carrying on, did I actually voice that? But I don't think Chris and Neil would have stopped me very easily.
The thing that amazed me as well, Caroline, was seeing how low you were at that point, and then hearing that you ran all the way down from the top of the fire road right to the finish. And for some, if you'd have said several hours later you'd be running strongly, no one, I don't think, would have believed it, particularly probably you.
No, I don't know where that came from, because I was still a mess, really, the whole way across Larrigmore and up to the top of the fire road. I mean, I could easily have still stopped at Lindabra. It was I could have done that fire being there and I do remember not wanting to get up from sitting at the fire, and it still felt like such a long way.
And then I think the other thing I remember as well from afterwards, when you went back to your school and you did some talks, I remember that little girl about the goblets. That was always a
yes, that she when the last picture I showed was of the goblet, and she said, "Oh, you did all that just for a glass." She hadn't really got my other messages about the race.
Okay, so that was, say, 5 years ago. Now, as you finished that race, did you think you'd be sitting there 5 years later having not done it again? Or?
No, because nearly right. In fact, actually during the race, still, I was like, I need to, and right afterwards, I was like, I need to do it again to get a better time than that, because I thought I had on a better year would have had a better time in me. And I did apply for the 2013 race, but I hurt my knee and had to pull out. But I think I also did struggle with motivation a wee bit, or just resolve. I don't know. And I do remember Ian Beattie saying that it can be really hard to come back 2 years in a row on your first time, just with, you know, after having been such a big deal for such a long time, and it does take up so much of your life. That's hard to go straight back into that again, I think. And I do think that was a wee bit of it, although I did barely run in 2013 because of my knee, so it was definitely that as well. So and then I wouldn't have thought I wouldn't have come back to it again, although I did have a conscious decision after that to go back to road running for a while as well and try and improve that.
Okay, well, let's talk about that then. So obviously you have been running over the last 5 years. So there was two main things I wanted to maybe pick up. One was park run, because you've done 162 of those, which is very impressive. So maybe we could start with those, and then think about your marathons as well that you've done in the thing. So let's just talk about park run. I think you've done maybe 15 or so. I think I looked on your list before the West Harlem Way. So you must have done almost 150 since the West Harlem Way.
And a lot of that was only in the last couple of years, really. I had found 2011 did a couple. More often, actually, probably looked after my niece and nephew to let my sister-in-law do them, I think. But then when training for the West Harlem Way race, your weekends became a bit long runs, really. So maybe only did 2 then or something in 2012. And even in 2013, because I wasn't running really, I didn't do an awful lot, but then sort of 2014 on, I mean, it must be nearly sort of 40 a year or something.
Wow.
I hit 100 in January 2016. And then so what's that been? Nearly 2 years to do another 62, but, you know, having been pregnant and recovering and things like that after that as well, and holidays and things. So, I love parkrun. I think it's you know, I know there some people might not be that widely known, have some issue around some of the research and things they're allowing to take place that might not be as ethical as some people like, and things. That's for a different conversation probably. But I do think, you know, the way they're going with trying to get more people involved in junior parkrun, and, you know, I do think they should be trying to, you know, get going in places where less people run, and, you know, where they need to get more people active, because I do still think where they are around Glasgow, you know, apart from a couple of the new ones, there are places where people are already active, and it's mainly runners that are coming into it and things. They need to try and get into other areas, which I know they're trying to do. But no, so I think it's been a great success, and the way it's helping people to get active in things. My mum's local one in Perth, they've recently been doing a Couch to 5k programme within the parkrun, so they have volunteers who've run that the whole way through, which I think has been really successful. So for you personally, obviously that's a big change from training for a 95 mile race to doing a 5k race. So what attracted you particularly to the idea of the parkrun? I think it's being able to go week on week, and either you can take it easy and just have your run, or to be able to push yourself and try and you know, better how you're doing. You know, I like that. I've been having that regular way that you can see if you're improving, and at different parkruns as well, so you can see across different courses how you're doing and things as well. And
certainly for you and Neil as well, and Harrison, that's become a part of your family, isn't it? Because Neil runs most of the time. Have you run with the buggy?
Not a parkrun. I did a lot of my running during maternity leave with the buggy, but not a parkrun. That was kind of always Neil's thing. And now I don't think I'd be fast enough for Harrison to want to be in the park of the buggy for parkrun. But you know, it definitely is, and that is another way, you know, that I think people can be involved so well, is because your children or dogs or whoever, you know, can be coming and joining in too. And again, when I was pregnant, it was a good thing to still be able to be joining in, running with other people when I didn't feel I could maybe go to the club anymore, or very easily, you know. And I always said I would stop when I was going to be last, and it never got to that point. So
good. And hopefully in years to come, Harrison will be running with you.
Hopefully.
That'll be good fun. So just thinking about that time, obviously during when you were pregnant, you kept running for pretty
37 weeks.
Wow. So you did your last park run. 37 weeks?
And that would have been my last run, was a parkrun.
Right. And then how soon after having Harrison did you get going again?
10 weeks, because I had a caesarean section, so I couldn't be too quick. And although I felt physically able, and I would say that's because I kept running through the pregnancy. You know, I felt I recovered really, really quickly, but internally you didn't know it was still repairing and things, so I did wait the 10 weeks, even though they say at least 12 for a section. I just took it back slowly from there, but again, their parkrun was something that you were able to do with other people then, and to get back into it. Although when you came back slowly, it was annoying because you didn't have the same excuses when you had a huge bump and people didn't know you just had a baby.
Yeah, you had a big t-shirt on, don't you? Yeah.
Yes, yes.
And then as he's a year and a half old now, isn't he? So do you feel as though you've got back to where you were, or is it taking you a bit longer to?
So I didn't really like maternity leave was the best thing ever. You know, having that time legitimately off your work, and then you could go out running in the daylight. You know, once he was 6 months, and you could go out running in the daylight with the buggy and things. That was just great, and I did feel I got not back to where I was, but I'd got to within the same minute of my parkrun PB. 10Ks, I was getting back down and things. I virtually, getting towards where I'd been before I had him. I mean, all my PBs actually sit from 2008. That's a long time ago. But then going back to work, kind of, it all slipped back again. Just working 4 days a week, but really actually doing the hours of full time. Bad commutes, and then just not wanting to go out when you've just come in and leave him again, and then you're too tired once you put him to bed. So I have found that very, very difficult. So I've gone right back to being really, really slow, barely running, put on loads of weight, all since just going back to work in August. So that's been quite tough. So but doing marathon, so hoping that's going to help me get back into it.
And how's that going? We're at day 9. Are you okay so far?
Not been easy trying to fit it in and things, but
if you're teaching, full time, you've got an hour journey, haven't you, each way?
But basically,
plus the full day in school, and then you get home, you want to spend time with Harrison.
So I mean, I leave in the house about 7 in the morning, and often with the traffic, I'm not back till 6. So then you're seeing Harrison for a while, and then it's trying to go out late. When I had to go out, it was like 20 to 9 when I was out. But I did manage to leave it early a couple of days this week because he wasn't that well. So I got out about 6 once I'd been home for a while. And then yesterday we had Santa dashes at school, so I actually got the running done while I was in school, but it was good. But I've only actually got, the good thing about marathon is I've only got another 8 days at work before we stop for the holidays, so then it'll be all right.
And then you can run in the daylight. Okay, so one more question about the parkruns. Are you someone who likes to sort of do a parkrun tourism? Do you like to, whenever you go?
We have done 24 different parkruns, which does make us parkrun tourists in terms of being able to be in the parkrun tourist Facebook group. You have to have done more than 20.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, and we've now both we've both just ordered these buffs that you can get when you get into this group and things as well. So we've done obviously lots around Glasgow, a couple Edinburgh kind of way, and then because Neil's family's Yorkshire, we'd done a few down there ages ago, and we've done 4 in London as well, because we kind of almost deliberately went to London one New Year, so to go and do a double Bushy and I think it was Crane Park on New Year's Day, and then we've done Southwark and Hampstead Heath as well. So have
you done any overseas when you've been travelling?
No, I've not found any that have been. I did look up when we were going to Japan, I did look up to see if there was one, but there wasn't there yet. So no, sometime we'll have to do that.
Definitely. Okay, so that was one area I want to, obviously we talked about, and then the other one was you've done quite a few marathons before Harrison was born, haven't you? And then, so do you want to just sort of talk through a little bit about your marathon experience? So first marathon was 2005 Berlin. A bit wet behind the ears. It wasn't a great success in terms of training beforehand and things, and that was a bit like the West Highland Waries. Finished that one, I was like, right, I have to get a better time than that. Did 2 Londons kind of the next couple of years after that, 3 Edinburghs, New York, Chicago. I think they were all before I was pregnant, and then then a London again just before I was pregnant, and then while pregnant, 7 weeks pregnant, I did the Loch Ness Marathon, which in hindsight maybe wasn't the best idea. And also the Rio de Janeiro Marathon just before
I was pregnant.
Oh yeah,
well,
yeah.
so.
What was that like?
Oh, it was amazing. That was one of my favourite marathons, just because I knew I wasn't going to be particularly fast or anything, and I just wanted to go and enjoy the atmosphere. And basically they bust you out from Rio along the coast, and the entire race was along the coast back into Rio. And I think it started at 8 o'clock. I know even at that point when you were running along the coast, there was just so many people out in the kind of outdoor gyms on the beach, or playing beach volleyball and things, just all the way along. And then once you got into Rio with the kind of 10k to go, loads of great support and everything, and loads of people from different countries doing it. Oh, I just absolutely loved it. Although I did made the mistake of, once you go into Rio with 10k to go, thinking, oh, I'm nearly there, and then actually thinking, no, that's still quite a long way to go. Oh no, it was brilliant.
Yeah, and I think you got on the podium for the
the
marathon tour.
Yes,
yeah.
Neil and I both did. I can't remember where he came. I came first, but only because I was the only female to put a marathon in that week. But I think because it was July, there wasn't many UK marathons going on. So yeah, we got on the podium for that.
Yeah. And then I think the other holiday you've had running was your trip to Machu Picchu.
Yeah, which was the same holiday as that.
Right,
so we did Rio and Argentina, and then went over to Peru, and joined a tour group and ran the Inca Trail to Machu Picchu. Some people were doing that as a marathon, and the one day and it was actually Amanda Hamilton that gave me the whole idea of it, because she'd done that. But we decided we wanted to sort of take our time a bit more, particularly having done Rio anyway, and do it over the 2 days that our group were doing, just so that we could enjoy the photos and take it in a bit more.
So if you do the race as a way, you do it over 1 day.
Yeah, and you start at 4 a.m, so you're actually doing, or something like that. So you're actually doing quite a bit of the trail in the dark as well. So you're missing quite a bit, and then you're feeling kind of, you have to get to Machu Picchu by a certain time as well, or actually to the last checkpoint by a certain time, or you're taken down a different way as well. So didn't want that pressure. Just wanted to enjoy it, which we did. It was really good. A couple of scary bits for me where you're a bit off a cliff edge and things, but no, overall it was great.
Excellent. Well, I put on Facebook that we were doing this tonight and today, and I've got a few comments. Gavin Harvey wants to know, how did you put up with Neil, which I don't think Neil was too happy with. But no, some good questions here. Jan Banowski says, will you run the West Harlem Way again? And if so, can he support?
Okay, and Jan's from our running club, and he did it the race for the first time this year, and Neil was his support the whole way through, and I was kind of there with Harrison from Tyndrum onwards. So I think we first met you in Tyndrum as well. And he did a really good run. So I mean, yes, I would like to do it again. It's always been in my mind, but I don't think now for a long time, because I just can't take the mum guilt of being away on long training runs like that from Harrison. That just I can't do that. So
it'll be there for forever. So
and I think in 20 years, maybe not 20 years, but 15 years or so, I think I could still get a better time than I got the first time round. So because I was still probably, what was that, 5 years ago, so 34, I'd probably still have been one of the younger people doing the race at that point as well. And I remember Neil first doing it in 2008 was definitely one of the youngest people. So no, I definitely will, and yes, he can definitely support. I think that's one of the things about our club, Giffnock North. It's, we've got a lot of folk interested in the trail and ultra running now, so there's quite a...
You all support each other.
For
this year, you had plans to do the Devils, didn't you? You'd hoped to do it, but that didn't work out in the end, did it?
No, I'd done Stirling Marathon in the May, which I really, really wanted to do, because it was the day after Harrison's first birthday, and I thought that would be great, to do a marathon sort of a year after he was born. Didn't really go to plan on the day. Having a party with 40 people there the day before probably didn't help. And then, I had a place for the Devils, and I really wanted to do it. So I'd had the training up till Stirling, went to Japan just after that, and I kind of struggled with the training a bit after that, but I did get the long runs in. I could have done it, but then Neil suddenly became interested in doing it as well, or if he could get a place. I can't even remember how because you weren't doing it, that's what it was, so we knew there was places.
For the Devils, that's right, yes.
So Neil had, and
He got a championship place in the end.
In the end, he got a championship place, and we must have discussed it. And I must have said at first, yes, it's all right, you could do it as well. And then when he got the place, I was suddenly like, this isn't going to work. Harrison's not been away from either of us for more than, I don't know, 2-3 hours at a time, and then we were going to leave him with my mum and dad for 8 hours or something, you know, and they would have to be taking him about the place. It was just far too complicated, so I ended up
you sacrificed.
And I've not let him forget it since. So I wrote that if I was going to do anything again, I would like to do the Devils, and I would think about it for putting in my name again for next year, because I'd have the summer.
And Neil will support you.
Yes, he's been told that if I apply, he's not allowed. But we'll have to see.
Okay, got some nice questions from Sandra BT, who knows you well, and she wants to know what motivates you to get out there when you've had a long, tough day at work.
Well, since I went back to work, not really anything has motivated me to get back out. I would say before having Harrison, because London in 2015 was my first marathon for a few years, kind of from before the West Highland Way race. That was quite motivating again. I do remember getting out and doing the 10 milers and things on a Wednesday night, and I was really motivated. I just wanted to do a good marathon again and get that road running back in place. And we joined Giffnock North, so although we were still in Paisley and having to travel across, like, it was just a good group of people and good sessions and stuff, and because we were both going, it made it easier to get out the door. But since going back to work in August, that's been, I don't know if until Marcathon I actually went out ever in the evening. I was doing kind of park run and not much more than that. Just really struggled, so hoping.
I think you do go through different phases of life, don't you? And at this stage, you know, Harrison's the priority, isn't he? And spending time with him. And even, I mean, he goes to bed sharp, but it's just by the time I've put him to sleep, because I'm still feeding him, that you know, you're so tired, and then he can be quite restless in the evening as well, and it's only me that can settle him, so I feel quite tired. And I wouldn't go to the club because if I only get in at 6, I'm not going to go out again 45 minutes later. So I've not been going down there. But I do think hopefully if I can get Marcathon done and keep up a bit of consistency from there, because I do think it's important that he's seeing both of us going out and exercising and everything as well. So I do want to, it's just hard. Sandra also wants to know, we talked about about almost collapsing at Kinloch-Leven to flying down the road, but she wants to know, how did you manage that? What was the one thing that made you sort of recover enough to be able to finish strongly?
I think just the fact it was downhill.
Was it?
If that had been, if you'd come off that forest road and it was just flat, that wouldn't have happened. I think the fact, you know, when it was daylight again and it was certainly wasn't raining anymore, and the end was in sight, and but I think all that downhill really helped.
I think for most people who are on the West Highland Way, their support crew is key, isn't it? But I do think yours that year were exceptional.
Yes.
They really were. I remember, you know, when at Oak de Tia, you were almost ready to to sort of call it a day, because it had been raining for 14 hours solid by then. You were drenched, cold, and you've still got 40 odd miles to do. And I know you've got a lot of, you're very stubborn yourself, but you had a team that were just determined to get you there.
It was more than even before Oak de Tia. It was coming into just at the Crean Larrick, going into the forest, that they were waiting for me there, and I was determined. I was going nowhere but down that hill to the car, and I wasn't even allowed to say a word. It was like a Formula 1 chain. They just stripped me, changed me, shoved food in my mouth and sent me up the hill, telling some walkers that I wasn't allowed to get behind them. They were to push me on. They were. And then again at Kinloch-Leven, getting me out, and just things like Susan, my sister-in-law, there was something about she had chocolate mints or something like that, and I said I didn't want the chocolate, so she was nibbling the chocolate off and then giving me the mint, practically peeling grapes for me, I think.
Wasn't the pizza story as well?
Yes, I was vegetarian at that point, but I ended up eating chicken pizza that she was taking the bits of chicken off for me and things. In fact, that was meant for the support crew, and they didn't really give.
I think for most people, you know, it's a team effort, but I just felt that year, particularly for just your race and how it went, it was very much a team effort.
No, definitely, and I wouldn't have finished without them, and it did make me realise that, you know, you're daydreaming about UTMB and things like that, but I don't think a race without a support crew certainly at that point would have suited me at all.
Sandra also wants to know, does being a head teacher make you more competitive, or do you just leave that to Neil?
I have gone back as deputy. I know I was acting head for a couple of years before having Harrison, so going back as deputy has been a wee bit easier as well, going back and not having quite that full responsibility. More competitive, I don't think that has anything to do with the competitiveness, and I would say my competitive is only really against myself, although I do get frustrated, you know, coming back from after having Harrison, and I'm now nowhere near the group that I used to be in at the running club and things like that I do find that quite difficult.
I've always felt though, Caroline, one of your strengths is that stubbornness that you've got, you know, and that that's in your work life, isn't it, and your personal life as well, but also it comes out in your running, that if you set your mind for something, then you're pretty
most of the time.
I
mean, the Stirling Marathon is another case in point with that one, when it was going so badly and I wanted to stop from halfway, and then as a lot of people probably know, those 3 loops at the end, which I think was the downfall of a lot of people, and I thought it would be a bit easier because you would see people more often. There was loads of folk I knew there out supporting, but I was absolutely determined coming into Stirling that I was quitting. I stopped I didn't stop my Garmin. So Gavin, who I think was on there with Neil, so he had seen him and Kirsty and just cried and hugging Gavin, and then he said, like, Neil's just up ahead. So Neil and Harrison and my mum and dad were there, and loads of other folk from the club, and I was determined I was stopping, and everyone else was saying, just stop, that's fine, you've nothing to prove, and only one girl was like, no, you can keep going and stuff, and I was like, I thought I was stopping. Harrison was really upset because I was really upset. Stopped, sat down on a step and fed him for a good 10-15 minutes, and then decided to carry on. I
determined.
Think, and I think that was partly because I fed him and then he was happier. I was happier to keep going, because that would have been the longest I've left him, I think, because we'd left so early in the morning and things.
So you were still on maternity then, weren't you? You hadn't gone back to school?
No, I managed to get a year and a quarter, which was lovely. So I think that made it easier to finish, but it was still a bit of a death march to the end. But that was stubbornness. Maybe if I'd stopped my Garmin, I might have stopped it.
Okay, Manny Fox wants to know, what would you do differently on your next West Harlem Way race from your first attempt? And in brackets, and will you move the school sports day next year so we can stay in Fort William to enjoy the party? So is she a teacher?
No, Mary and her husband John are parents at the school I'm at, and their relatives are John and Lorna McLean as well. So the year I did the West Harlem Way race, John McLean had done it as well, and he was at the sports day on the Monday too, and the two of us were hobbling about the place. And Mary and John are runners as well. They'd supported as well, but they've done a lot of running themselves now. And the sports day is usually the day after. So that wouldn't be my decision anymore, since I'm not acting head anymore. I can't remember what I meant to look at the calendar actually before I left school and check, but I can't remember when it's down for this year. What would you do differently? See, in terms of the training, not an awful lot. I don't think. Like, you'd helped me with the plan, and it was very similar to yours.
I do remember though that did you do London, or you wanted to do London?
No, I didn't do it.
I think
I had thought about it, and I think you did.
I think that was the only thing I was concerned, trying to train for London, a road marathon, and the West Harlem Way, and I think I felt, and
I didn't do that in the end. I would have liked to, so I couldn't do the actual Fling because we were at a wedding that day. So I did it myself the week before. Like, Debbie Kinsani came and did the first kind of half with me, and Neil came out and met me around about Ben Glass and finished with me. But that was still a tough shift doing that yourself. I would definitely like, if you were doing the full race, I would like to do the actual Fling as well, whether you race it or you just go for the day out, but it would definitely have been easier and given me more of a confidence boost, I think, because I think I could have gone a bit quicker. I definitely went too fast at the start though. Didn't manage to get the full 2-day run done because of the gale force wind, where caravans were knocked over and all sorts, and other people that were out training that weekend didn't get theirs done. I remember Gaynor, they had to stop too, but I don't think that made a big difference in the end. I think I lost a bit of focus the last kind of 5 weeks, but there's not a lot that's going to make a lot of difference in that time, so I don't think there's much I would do differently with the training. The actual race, more food. There was definitely not eating enough, which was a lot of the reason why coming into Kynaston leaving I was so spent. I can't actually think of much else that I could have done differently. You know, I probably went through all my clothes, but I had enough by the end. But I would say you have to have so much.
I would say, you know, having done the podcast with you and sort of prepared, I know how hard you worked for that. So you'd put the miles in, you'd put the time in. So you had. It wasn't as if you just turned up. You prepared well for it. Didn't you?
And I think something when I'd had bad plantar fasciitis, was that 2 years before it maybe, and had done the Caledonian Challenge with a group from kind of work and stuff. That really prepared me for being out overnight, because we'd started at 9 o'clock on the Saturday morning and finished whatever on the Sunday morning. So from that sense, I knew, although I went into 2 nights, but I knew I could do a full overnight. That was a big confidence booster actually, and I knew I was doing that at the time as a prep for the West Highland Way race as well. You know, that was in my head. Anything else that I've done? I just can't.
No, I think that's,
you know, the weather was something you just can't.
No, you can't prepare for.
I mean, I don't think, although I was stubborn and things, I don't think I was mentally very strong there for that. But I don't know what else you could do. I mean, I do remember saying to Neil at Riverdale, I can't do this. Even that was only Riverdale, but I think I don't think that's uncommon when you're about to go into the whole big long, and that was the other thing that year, you couldn't meet your support crew at Being Glass, so you were all the way to Crane Lara.
That's right, yes.
Where I think that would help me another time when you've only got to get to Being Glass to meet your crew.
It's a long way, isn't it, from Rowadennan to...
Particularly on a year with weather like that and things, because I remember it was between Inversnaid and Being Glass. I remember having to stop and do nearly a full change of clothes, you know, just with what I had with me, which, you know, I did have it all. But definitely food, that was...
Graham Stewart also says, as a potential newbie, fingers crossed, lips sealed, is there one thing you'd wish you'd done differently after your first north of 50 run? So again,
definitely getting the food, getting more food on board.
Okay. John Casti, socks, shoes. Did Caroline wear the same kit all the way, or change at any point? And foot care before or after the West Highland Way race. Did you do anything special?
So I've said, you know, many full changes of clothes.
Now, had you planned to change, or if the weather had been good, would you have stuck with the same?
I wouldn't really have changed if the weather had been good. And I did not plan, even when I didn't know about the weather or weren't thinking about it, I didn't plan to change my feet wear at all. And even during the race, as I went on, I thought, I don't want to know if there's blisters or anything. I thought I'd rather just wait to the end, because I think it was maybe worse then if you see them. Although I'm sure I'd actually have known about it if I did. I
think sometimes you think, oh, maybe it's a stone in there, don't you? And then you take your shoe off and you, oh no, it's a blister.
But in actual fact, I think that year, I think some people almost had trench foot, and I had nothing. Now, so I had no intentions on changing anything to do with my feet, socks or shoes, but in Kinloch leaving, I couldn't warm up because I was lying down, and the rest of me was dry at that point, but I was frozen because of my feet, so I had to get my socks and shoes off and get them changed. And I did have, you know, other shoes with me for in case I needed them, and nobody could believe there was nothing on my feet whatsoever.
So what socks did you wear? Remember?
Anything. I wear just pound socks from Primark, Asda, whatever. I know Neil can't believe it.
Have you always had no problems with your feet?
I've never really got that many, not from training shoes. No, only occasionally like at the top, at the back or something on new pair, or if you're and it's funny, you'd think with these cheap socks, like, you know, sometimes they do slip down your trainers and things. They obviously didn't. I can't even remember if I wore gaiters or not.
I've always found if you have cheaper ones, they're okay if it's dry. But I've found if they get wet, they never get dry again, as it were.
And that's my feet wear so wet.
Whereas something like I find the dry max socks, if they get wet, you do have a chance that they can expel the water.
I have tried proper socks before, like the dry, but they bother my feet more.
Do they?
For some reason.
It's interesting, isn't it? I think everyone just needs to find their own, don't they, really?
Yeah,
you know, and it's trial and error sometimes, isn't it?
No special footwear, you know, Vaseline or anything, nothing. But I can't say that would be for everyone, so
no, I know.
to try out different things.
Yeah. Well, if it works for you, that's great. Yeah. Neil, who's your husband, says, would you? He's asking how you refueled in the days after the race. Would you do anything differently? Obviously, inside information.
Yes, what was on the blog at the time. Yeah, so I lost 11 pounds. I think it was maybe 8 pounds during the race, and 3 pounds then in the few days after it as well, because in my wisdom I decided that because I'd lost some weight, this is great, we'll just see if I can keep that off and keep it up. So definitely didn't refuel properly, but also really busy last few days at work. I was going to Malawi on the Saturday and then off to Asia, so just really busy trying to do stuff.
Is that when you fainted? Yeah.
Didn't really actually get enough sleep and things either to catch up. So on the Friday we were at the wedding of one of my support crew, and I made it till about 7 o'clock, and then I've never fainted before, so I didn't know what was happening. Felt really hot, I had to go outside, passed out, smashed the front of my head off a wall, came to with kind of Neil going, what are you doing? And then passed out backwards and smashed my head on the ground, so an ambulance came to the reception.
I seem to remember there was a photo with your blood sort of
on my hair, and that was definitely lack of refuelling and everything. I think lack of rest and things as well afterwards as well, so definitely I wouldn't have thought of it before.
So that would be a top tip, would it, to make sure you look after yourself after the race?
Look after yourself afterwards, that's just as important, I think, and most people probably do.
No, I'm sure you're not the only one. Well, that's great. It's really helpful just to get catch up and see where you're at. So just finally, what are your sort of plans for 2018? Have you got goals that you want to achieve? You talked about maybe trying to get into the Devils again. I haven't
any concrete plans, apart from the fact that I've got a place in Bicklively 10k now, which I've done before because Neil now has an ultra the day after, so he's going to do that, and I've taken his officially taken his Bicklively place. I do keep thinking about a marathon again. Stirling is now at the end of April, so I feel that's maybe a wee bit soon, although I would like to do it. New course, I think it will maybe be better.
Not the loops anymore,
No. Or Edinburgh at the end of May, but I just don't know if I can commit to it. But I do feel like I've done, was it 12, 13 marathons maybe now, and apart from that kind of period after the West Highland Way, I've been, they've been kind of long run training has been part of my life since 2005, so it feels odd not doing one. But I just don't know if I can commit to that. I'd quite like to do the Ballast to Clydebank half in March. I think that would be a good kind of stepping stone to see, so we'll just have to see. And likely to put my hat in the ring for the Devils and see, and I would just hope that during the summer holidays I could do the kind of longest
and park runs. You're on 162.
Yes, on 162, so I should definitely get to 200 by the end of 2018. Should well over 200.
Is that the next t-shirt?
No, 250.
250.
So still a while to go.
Good. And just finally, what advice would you give to people listening to this or watching this who hopefully will have a place for next year, have not done it before, in a similar situation to you in 2012? Get your training plan thought out. I'm like you, and I wanted the training plan all set out, and I think that helps to just prep you and keep you
organised, and so that you're not doing too many long ones and together and things like that. Whereas obviously Neil, who's done it a couple of times and who's got his hat in the ring for this year as well, he'll just wing it. But I think for some people that could mean you actually do too much, maybe. Thinking about those key long runs, definitely trying out different foods.
Just on that point, I don't know whether it worked for you this way, but I found if I put those big stones in, those monthly runs, and when I did them, the confidence it gave me was almost worth as much as the physical side. If I knew I'd done the work, then I felt as though it gave me the confidence.
Definitely. And there, I wouldn't say a lot of mine went particularly well. I mean, that double out and back we did, that was torture. But I finished quite strongly on that one, and mentally having to do that double out and back, was good for that. And having to do the fling myself, and I did the whole devil's route, but took a lot longer to do it than I thought. And that's something actually that a lot of people kind of don't agree. That was 42 miles in the March, and then doing the fling in April, and those people like Tim Downey, I can't remember who else, but somebody said, well, that's too much too early and things like that. But well, for me, I don't think it was. I think especially if you're going to do the fling and then maybe a 2-day, it worked out.
Yeah, I think there is quite a bit of, it's interesting, the discussion isn't about the furthest run you do. I know some people doing the fling, the furthest they might do is 20, 25. Personally, I've always felt if I was going from, my longest run was 30, and then going to the devil, which is 53, that's, once you get to 30, then you've got 23 miles of unknown territory. Whereas if you've done a 40 or a 42, it's only another 10 miles. I've done 42, so I can do 10.
And that was for the Devils this year, I'd hoped to do a longest run of about 30 to 32, and in the end only made it, I think my longest was 26, which would have been just a bit, wasn't quite enough of a confidence booster as I would have liked. But just logistics and time and things. So definitely training plan, trying out all your different foods, and get things that you can stomach, but also expecting that things you could stomach on the training runs might not work on the day, or you just totally on the day being prepared for anything different that you might, because actually quite a few of those things that I ended up having, especially later in the race, were things that my support crew that were coming up later had brought that I didn't know about, like the pizza and the grapes and things like that.
And support crew, that if encouraging people to get a good team. Yes,
definitely. And I know lots of people prefer to have 2 different support crew. I will always say I think one person should be there right through. And Neil was right through for Jan this year, and he was the only one that did. So he didn't do the driving the first night, somebody else from the club did. In fact, he didn't do the driving the second day either, someone else did, but he was there the full time. I just think somebody who's seen you the whole way through, to know what's come before, I think that's really important. And it wouldn't suit everybody, not everybody would agree with that, but I think especially if that person doesn't have to do any driving and can maybe get a rest at a point.
But to have at least one person who's seen you from start to finish.
I think that's important. But thinking, and I think it does help if your crew have experience of the race, either, particularly if they've run it before. So obviously when Neil crewed for me and he'd done the race, I crewed for him twice and I hadn't done it, but I'd been at the training runs and things as well actually, so that's probably quite important. Lots of people wouldn't do training runs that have, the way that we kind of used to do them with having car support and things like that, but just to make sure...
Your dad was good for that, wasn't he?
He was, to make sure somebody, even just things like knowing the route you're going to drive and things, it's... makes things so much easier for your support crew as well.
Have you planned, if Neil gets a place, will you be on his team, or will that be
I don't think I could. I think it would be too difficult. I would definitely be, I've been at the race every year since 2008, so I would be there in some capacity, but I don't see being able to be actual support crew. He'd be in front of a car and and there's plenty of guys at the club who are desperate, to then do that, like and I think wants to do it, and other folk that have run the race and things as well. I think you've got to be committed to it if you're going to do it. I did end up being able to help out with Jan and stuff a bit. That's because you played with Harrison actually. But it would be hard to be fully committed to that. Trying to think what else. Yeah, and your crew, you know, them having enough clothes, food and things for themselves, because you can't rely on the fact you're going to get to kind of leaving the time to get a trippy or, you know, whatever. That's because I think the year I did it, Neil didn't really think much about himself and what he was going to eat and things.
Typical Neil.
Yes.
Yeah. No, well, thank you very much. And it was great that year, that first year doing the podcast and following your journey. And I was thinking as well that the last time you were on the podcast was when you and Neil hosted it, remember?
Yes,
in November 2014. When,
not long ago.
I know.
Oh my goodness.
That's right. When you interviewed myself and Katrina. So,
I think maybe because you put on a wee bit of that on your 100th one or something. Maybe that's why I'm thinking it's not as long ago. But I can't believe.
I know, it's 3 years ago.
That's as long ago as that.
Time flies.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, and we wish you all the best for 2018, both in your running and your family life and all the things that you do. And I know you're still looking for other jobs, aren't you? So
to be a bit closer to home, that might help me get out.
Something works out soon. But thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.